the Sky News Centre, this is Paul Murray Live.
G'day, good evening. Let's not muck around. Sam Dastyari has to go. Sam Dastyari allegedly had 3 strikes. In the next couple of minutes, I'll explain why he is now on his 4th. During the election campaign last year, Sam Dastyari, who, it has been said, believes that the future of the Labor Party is Arab votes and Chinese money. He is a man who is incredibly connected to the Chinese community in New South Wales, as a bloke who used to run the party in New South Wales. He is the man, as Peter Credran told you earlier this evening, is the linchpin between the Chinese community and Christina Keneally's bid for Bennelong. But this bloke has been caught out way too many times, and we are indebted to the work of the ABC and Fairfax today, as well as those that were willing to tell the truth about Sam Dastyari selling out not just his party, but his country. Let me explain why I believe that to be the case. During the election campaign, Stephen Conroy, the then Shadow Defence Minister, made a speech. The speech was that Australia, along with the rest of the world, should not allow China to control the waters around the South China Sea, where they have invented islands to extend their country's boundaries. It was a clear-cut position. It was a position that was made very public in a speech to the National Press Club. The day after that speech was given, Sam Dastyari gave a press conference with this man. This man, whom allegedly, well, in fact, it was admitted, had paid $4,000 to help Sam Dastyari, rather $5,000, to pay his bills. Well, that in and of itself would be strike 1. But strike 2 was that when asked about the Labor Party's position on the South China Sea, he said that it was a matter for China. He said exactly the opposite of what his official party position was. Strike 1, strike 2. He then went, after the scandal emerged of the money, after the scandal emerged of him selling out his party's national defence position, he then, after some time, eventually resigned his position on the front bench of the Labor Party in the Senate. He said in the months following, including in a puff piece to promote his book on Channel 2 and an interview on Australian Story, that the answer that he had given was a garbled answer, that essentially people had misinterpreted what he had to say. Well, get ready for strike 3, because he was lying then and he has been caught out lying now. This tape was released today to the ABC and Fairfax.
Chinese integrity of its borders is a matter for China, and the role that Australia should be playing as a friend is to know that with the several thousand years of history, where it is and isn't our place to be involved. And as a supporter of China and a friend of China, the Australian Labor Party needs to play an important role in maintaining that relationship, and the best way of maintaining that relationship is knowing when it isn't our place to be involved.
He said that it is the role of the Labor Party to decide when to and when to not get involved. That's code for China can do what it wants with its part of the world, even if they build islands and invent new borders for their part of the world. He said so a day after Stephen Conroy had said to the National Press Club that the position of the Labor Party was exactly the opposite. He took the money, he changed the position, he lied about the position. Now to strike 4. We learned today via the Sydney Morning Herald and the Fairfax Press, and plenty of insiders inside the intelligence community, who said that not only did Sam Dastyari continue conversations with the very man who ended up costing his job, not hours, not days, but weeks, after he had resigned his front bench position because of his relationship with that Chinese man who United States and Australian security officials believe has fairly obvious connections back to the adversarial power that is China. Those conversations were at the man's house, not at his office, not at a cafe, at his house. That's strike 4. And then strike 5. Sam Dastyari told the man in question, let's go outside. Why? Because I'm pretty sure that our phones are being tapped by the Americans or by the Australians. So he told the Chinese man who paid his legal bills, who he stood next to as he sold out our national security and his party's policy, go outside because somebody is monitoring you. Bill Shorten today said that Sam Dastyari has had a couple of lapsing judgment, mistakes, as his mates will call them. But as I've just shown you, he took the money, he changed the position, he lied about what he said, he went to the guy's home and told him that he was under surveillance. The test is no longer of Sam Dastyari. The test is no longer of the Labor Party. The test is of Bill Shorten. If Bill Shorten wants to have the confidence of Australia's national security apparatus, he must sack Sam Dastyari.
Let's get into Sam Dastyari.
All right. Nick, I'm going to start with you. Why am I wrong? Why should he remain in the parliament?
Well, I mean, I think his political career is hanging by a thread this evening. I think Tanya Plibersek, Deputy Leader, and Bill Shorten, the Leader today, sort of said that he'd made a major error of judgment. I think they said he'd made two mistakes and, they didn't want to see a third. And then tonight we've seen the tape come out with the Chris Yeilman piece of him giving the speech on what Labor's, stating his policy about China, which appeared squarely at odds with what Labor's position was. So, look, I think he's in a very difficult position tonight. I think a lot of the claims, however, that have been made today have been quite exaggerated, and I think he's on his final warning.
Senator Bernardi, I counted at 4, maybe 5 strikes and this bloke is gone, let alone everything else, let alone the bagging people for their houses on the internet, all the rest of it. That's politics. This is national security. Do you believe, like me, he should leave the parliament?
Paul, I do, and I think this is now not an assessment of Sam Dastyari's character. That's been established by the fact that he didn't tell the truth about what he said in that press conference. He took money from an agent of the Chinese government, effectively. He's warned them about surveillance. And why would you warn someone about surveillance and then go outside to have a conversation if you had nothing to hide? This is now a character test of Bill Shorten. Will he allow the Labor Party's protection racket to kick into gear? The New South Wales right protecting their own. Even Albo was out there today defending him. This is really about the integrity of the Parliament and the Labor Party. So I'm saying Sam should resign tomorrow.
So where to from here? What will you do in the Senate, and what conversations have you had with others to make sure that it's not just a vote of one against this bloke tomorrow?
Well, I've got a motion in tomorrow, and it doesn't mention Sam Dastyari specifically, but it calls upon all senators to uphold the integrity of the Parliament, the national security, and put our interests first. Everyone knows fairly and squarely where it's aimed, and the other whips suggest that there's some support for it, because if they object to it, it really is a protection racket, and it would say a heck of a lot about the Parliament. But I'd say this also, Paul. This Parliament has been discredited more and more by the day. It is time that we said enough is enough. If you're not going to suspend the Parliament because of citizenship issues, then at least kick out the person. The Labor Party should have the decency to kick out the person that is so compromised and reflects just how bad the standards have fallen within the major parties.
Now, Peter Cridland, people will assume, well, of course you and I are going to hate Sam Dastyari. It's Team Red, it's Team Blue. But explain why this is about Team Green and Gold, about why this is a strike against our country.
Well, and I'll hit on the head claims that Nick Rees tonight that this stuff has been exaggerated during the day. I'm not going to use any exaggeration at all. It is extraordinary that a $5,000 donation is not given to a party, which is allowed under the rules, but it's given to an individual to pay a legal bill, a personal legal bill. That's extraordinary. That's wrong. That's reprehensible. That should be enough. Then he goes and uses the Commonwealth parliamentary offices in Sydney to do a press conference with one of his donors to twist and contort Labor Party policies, pulled up about it, resigns his job and says, I got it all wrong, that's not really what I said, it was confused language. Then you have this tape come out tonight that makes it very clear, no, it wasn't. It was in fact a restatement of the policy, contorted and twisted to suit the Chinese ears that were listening to it. But I think the most serious allegation that's been put out there in the media today is the one I'm the most concerned about, is this idea that he goes around to this donor's house well after the fact that he has had to resign over his links with this Chinese man. I don't have a problem with him meeting him, Paul. I don't have a problem with foreign donations. I don't like them, but they're still legal. But I do have a problem with an individual in the parliament telling another foreign national that you are likely to be under surveillance by the Australian authorities, indeed overseas authorities, that we can't have a conversation inside this house, that we must go outside. What were they talking about that he couldn't say in the full view of ASIO's ears or anybody else's? What are they talking about that he has to go and skulk outside a house and hide from the truth? And then Bill Shorten's very weak excuse today, well, it couldn't have been much because he doesn't really know much, I find is wrong in the extreme, because he obviously knew enough that this gentleman in question was under surveillance. And I know that there are a number of ASIO briefings about a range of Chinese links that Bill Shorten and others in Bill Shorten's office would have known about, and someone obviously has briefed Dastyari.
Now, Nicholas Rees...
Well, so hang on, there's a couple of points I need to pick up there. I mean, the first is, you know, Peter's made these claims about donations received from Mr Huang, and the fact is that the Labor Party has banned any donations from this individual, but the Liberal Party has not done so. So when is Mr Turnbull and the Liberals going to say that they won't accept donations from this individual?
Rees, 27th of March 2015, Chinese-based property company Yuhu, founded by Mr Huang, paid Dastyari's legal fees after he was sued by Diversified Communications. Fact, no emotion, no hyperbole, and not a distraction. That is fact.
But also, Nick, I want to ask...
sitting here tonight, says we do, the fact is the Labor Party has refused to accept donations from this individual.
Mate, it's about Dastyari.
The Liberal Party still accepts donations from him. Fact,
Nick,
okay?
Why
don't you just concede that the Liberal Party should also ban donations from this individual?
All right.
I agree,
Can I
Nick.
clarify something here?
Yeah, Senator, you get in there.
Okay, good.
Paul, this individual has said that he voluntarily stopped giving money to political parties in 2016. The Dastyari stuff came to light this year when I exposed him on another network for having had his personal bills paid by a Chinese donor, and that's when this all started to come out. So don't make the Labor Party be holier than thou. They are as compromised as anything, and Sam Dastyari is up to his neck in it.
Now, Nicholas,
I'm not trying to do that. Sam was wrong. He paid a price for that. I just make the point that the Liberal Party should join with Labor and say no more donations from this individual.
Put the donations to one side. Tell me how you wriggle out of him going to the individual's home and saying, do not have a conversation inside. We are being tapped. We need to go outside. Why would you do that? Why would you tell a foreign national about surveillance? You were in a Prime Minister's office like I was. You know the rules. You know the rules. Why would you tell a foreign national that, one? And two, what has he got to say that he has to go outside in the garden and say it? Come on, Nick.
I mean, when you were advising Prime Minister Tony Abbott, did you ever say to him, hey, there's a room full of journalists here, there's a room full of people listening in, I've got to have a pretty frank conversation with you, let's step outside to have that conversation. Did you ever have that sort of conversation with Prime Minister Tony Abbott? I'm sure you did it hundreds, if not thousands of times.
To suggest that this... Are you saying Peter Griffin went to his house and said, hey, let's go outside because the US might be listening? That's what Dastyari said.
Hang on, just
Nick, that's
Peter,
your
are you saying that you
that is your weakest effort.
Are you denying that you've never said to the person you're advising, let's step out of this room full of listeners, of journalists, whoever, to have a private conversation?
To a Prime Minister, we need to leave a room in Australia and talk outside because I'm worried that ASIO must be listening. I have never said that to a Prime Minister in Australia, so you're wrong.
Senator...
Well, so the suggestions today that there was, you know, this was counter-surveillance advice and treason on Dastyari's part. I mean, that is just nonsense.
OK, so Nick, why did he say to a private citizen in his own house, let's go outside because someone might be listening?
Well, I suspect he wanted to have a private conversation with him.
In a mansion where he couldn't go to another room?
Well, maybe they could have gone to another room, but I suspect he wanted to have a private conversation with him, so they stepped outside. Peter, you would have done that so many times in your career, you would have lost count.
All right, Senator.
Paul, can I raise this question? Bill Shorten said this morning, Senator Dastyari's had 2 warnings and he's on his, that's his no more. Tonight it's come out that he hasn't told the truth about betraying Labor Party policy and sacrificing at the altar of, Sino relations. Is that the third strike, Nick? Do you think he should go? Because how many more chances should he have?
Well, I said, Corey, at the start of this program that I thought his career was hanging by a thread.
OK, if you had the Prime Minister's ear, what would you say to him? What would your advice to Bill Shorten if you were one of his trusted advisors, as you have been to a former Prime Minister? What would your advice to Bill Shorten be?
Well, I do think that a lot of the claims, particularly by Malcolm Turnbull today, were complete hyperbole and over the top. And so, I think that the message has been sent to Sam Dastyari pretty clearly that he's on his final warning. But
haven't we just illustrated this evening that his final warning keeps being extended? It's not 1 strike, it's not 2, it's not 3, it's 4. And as I said, it depends whether you want to double count some things or not, but we can go a lot higher than that if you want to. So I just want to ask this here. I'll cut Bill Shorten this slack. Today, apparently, he was at a funeral, hence why a statement was released today. Bill Shorten often, when there is a level of controversy around, will just simply disappear for 1 or 2 days and then hope that nobody's going to bring it up again. And with matters like same-sex marriage or euthanasia or whatever the heck it is that is also there that day, then generally he rides it out. What should Bill Shorten say tomorrow? How does he appear publicly tomorrow? And do you think that he should change the traditional media strategy of I've put out a statement, I've said my bit, and then hide for 2 days?
Well, I think that he has made it pretty clear that Sam Dastyari is on his final warning. As I've said to you, I think his career is hanging by a thread. Let's see what happens from here. But, I don't think he's, going to. But given the evidence that we've seen today, I think he's on his final warning.
But, Peter, this is where the question becomes about Bill Shorten. Bill Shorten's strategy, whenever he gets in trouble, is you punch out a statement, you put out the deputy, then you hide for 2 days. That can't be acceptable tomorrow. Reporters, if he won't do a press conference, need to find out where he is.
So I think this is a political point I'm going to make here. If I was advising Bill Shorten, I would say you are profiting at the moment in your primary vote from a very poor government, from a poor Prime Minister and a government that has lost drift, and there's the issue of the coup. But there is a big hesitation about you, and the big hesitation people have is, are you up to the job? Do you have that special something, that integrity measure that people want to see in a Prime Minister? And even if they are not traditional Labor supporters, can you bring them over? Because that's essential to win and win well. And I would be saying that this will be a question that people will judge you on, probably more than anything else you've done this year, this question of can you, if there's rot in your own house, can you get rid of the rot? And the issue for Bill Shorten will be, as a Victorian, he thinks he needs Sam Dastyari to shore up the numbers in New South Wales, because the only real aspirant still is Anthony Albanese, who is in New South Wales, maybe as an outside Tanya Plibersek, but I don't see much of that. He thinks he needs a Dastyari, so he is prepared at this point in time to swallow and chew glass to keep this guy in, but it will damage him and it will damage what Australians think of Bill Shorten. So this will be a test of the statesmanship and integrity of Shorten more than anything else.
Absolutely.